My name is Lulu LaFortune. I'm a furniture designer in Los Angeles, and for the last
Live. What's up, y'all? Oh, yeah. Gotta open this bad boy up. Oh, I just spilled it all over myself. All right, all right. Excuse me. All right. I don't feel like going live on Instagram, so I'm just gonna go live on YouTube. So, exclusive for y'all YouTube folks. Anyone who watches this or sees the link through my Instagram or whatever, I would definitely appreciate a like if you like the content, and also if you really like the content, then subscribe just because I do these every Tuesday and Thursday night. So I'm pumping up the volume, the content for y'all. And I enjoy doing it. It keeps me busy, keeps me learning new stuff, which is actually what we're going to talk about tonight. But keeps me on my toes, and new content is always available. And eventually, I want to have this huge catalog of stuff that I've talked about and everything else. And who knows, maybe we'll add co hosts or guests onto the show or something like that. Eventually, I would love to do like a Q&A session just for people who are interested in it could be a certain topic or it can be about anything, my life or my experiences or just whatever, finance, business, lifting, gym, whatever. So, it's going to be in the future once we get a little bit more subscribers and we get pump up the volume that people are watching my content. All right. So I'm trying to think. I think starting to get a little bit sick. Not gonna lie. Today, I actually haven't gone to the office all week, but I was planning on coming in today. I woke up this morning and one of the signs that I know I'm getting sick or starting to get sick is my throat starts hurting. Start to have a sore throat. That's exactly what happened. And I got a little bit better, and then now today, or throughout the day, it's kind of gone away. But I don't know if it's the allergies or the pollen in the air. The thing is, I haven't really been outside much today, just been working inside at home. I feel kind of stuffy at the moment, so like throat a little bit. No, actually not throat, but mainly my sinuses and my nose. But it's all connected. So we'll see. Hopefully, cross my fingers. I do not want to get sick, just because being sick, that's the worst thing. I'd rather have to go into the office every single day if it means me not guaranteeing me not getting sick. But it is what it is, unfortunately. But Thursday night, Thursday night's always really great. Not only because football and I do these live streams, but tomorrow's Friday. The weekend is upon us, and that is a very good feeling. Just because I don't know, this week actually has gone by pretty fast, pretty busy, at least for the first part of the week, and it's nice having a couple extra days to work on some personal projects, I mean like work projects, individual projects I'm working on to help the team and help do my job a little bit more efficiently. Then some other side stuff as well. So that is really nice. Not having to do all the day-to-day stuff. Anyway, let's go ahead and hop into it. Thursday night football is waiting. We have what the Commanders and the Bears. Bears are gonna lose again. They're gonna stay unwin or winless. It's like undefeated is the. It's like you haven't lost a game. Winless, I guess, is you haven't won a game. It should be a un something for win. But let's go ahead and hop into it. So tonight's topic is my notepad is why you need to be a lifelong learner. Now, this is a topic I vehemently agree with, and a lot of other people in the space have also talked about it a lot. And I'm actually going to mention a few points that they bring up I really like as well. Overall, too, there is this kind of other movement where it's like anti, like at least formal education, and the fact that's like don't go to college, don't go to beyond high school, and even don't really like focus on high school and do other stuff, start your own businesses and become an entrepreneur. That's the big thing, the hot topic going on nowadays. And I think I to some extent definitely agree. I think that people should strive to do what they really find really fascinating and interesting and try to monetize that, just because that will, that passion you build for it, it's harder for it to go away. Won't say it's impossible for it to go away. Even something that is your passion can, you can find not as much passion later on in life. You think of a lot of people that are athletes and stuff, that their whole lives they've been playing this one sport and they've been really good and they've made it to the professional level, and some of them even become the best of the best. But there's still very few of them. The people like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, and I'm trying to think of others that are like vehemently passionate about the game. Because even like LeBron, he's the second best player of all time that has ever lived. But I mean, he even admits like obviously he has a passion for the game. He loves it more than anything else. But he doesn't like live to play basketball. Whereas like MJ and Kobe, they lived to play basketball. So it's, anyways, my point is try to find something. I am a big proponent of trying to find something that you really enjoy and you find a big part of your life and you find it hard to live without, and try to monetize that and make that your career. Make it not only just your job, but your career. And a lot of these entrepreneurs are like, don't go to school and stuff. I do not necessarily agree with that. It depends what you want to do, situation by situation. It's not a blanket cover. And so in that sense, it's like not everyone should just not do like college or university, but then not everyone should do college and university either. So there's a standard deviation of people that probably should. If you want to be a, if you want to go into something that requires higher education, some sort of certification, like an accountant, a lawyer, a doctor, I'd say even there's a lot of stuff you can learn on the internet and through other sources about finance, but there's a lot of stuff you won't learn about finance. Like people, and then people generally think finance is like, oh, I'm trading stocks and stuff like that. Just the stock market. Obviously, that plays a big factor into it, but that's not the only thing. There's like corporate finance, which I do, and there's multiple different parts in it that you only can really gain experience by actually doing it and learning about it working within companies. So it's somewhat hard to learn how to do that. But there are tons of other stuff that, for example, history. You can most likely learn anything about history online and through studies and through reports. And obviously, you can travel and get firsthand sources from people, but you don't need a degree to do that. So there's stuff that does require higher education. There's stuff that doesn't require higher education. And there's stuff that just requires time, which a lot of that kind of it crosses over. So a lot of people like no education, don't do it, yes, do it, somewhere in the middle. That's where I stand. There's benefits to it, there's benefits not to it. For example, I talked about one example where you probably should if you need some sort of certification. Then the people that probably shouldn't are if you just really hate school, you like to use your hands. I give the prime example of one of my past roommates. He hated school. He hated doing homework. He, granted, no one really likes doing homework or taking tests, but hated going to class. Like push everything off. Didn't really matter to him whether he passed or not. But he really liked using his hands, and he just wanted to start making money, start his own business. So he started his own contracting business and remodeling business, and seems like it's going pretty well. That type of person, maybe trade school, but you don't really need education. And I'd say same for like if you want to be a videographer or if you want to be obviously a content creator or you want to be some sort of like graphic designer, just examples. And even coding to some extent, you don't necessarily have to have a degree to do that. You can, there's a lot of different courses and stuff that you can take. And as long as you pass certain tests and certifications, then you can be qualified. My roommate's current roommate's one example. He never really went to college. He just took a boot camp and several courses and showed to his employers that he can do the job and he's a pretty good job with a very reputable company. But let's start off with, so that's kind of the context, the background behind the topic tonight. So let's talk about what role, first of all, starting off, what role does education play in life? Now, I kind of talked a little bit about that in my preface, but the type of life you lead is greatly determined by kind of like what education you have and whether or not you prioritize education and learning in your life. So think of someone who just grows up, and don't get me wrong, it doesn't dictate the necessarily quality of like happiness you're going to have in your life, but definitely affects the quality of your life and your access to resources. And I do believe that greater access to resources takes money, which can lead to better quality of life, generally speaking. So someone who doesn't, who just has to kind of start working, I think of my grandparents for an example. They don't have any type of formal education, and they just kind of did what they needed to do to make ends meet. Had a great, happy life, but a lot of stuff was very limited because of that. Versus you kind of see it later down in the generations. My mom and my aunts and uncles, they've kind of unlocked a new level of success, a new quality of life, that they can take vacations and stuff like that every once in a while. And then hopefully myself and my generation, like my brothers and sisters and stuff, we can even surpass that and have access and unlock a new kind of echelon of quality of life as well. But also staying humble and working hard and teaching our kids to do the same. So education does play a very important part just because it gives you access to different parts of life. There's reasons why there's very few people, and the people will argue it's like, well, so and so didn't never finished high school, or so and so, like a perfect example, Glenn Stearns, if you know who he is. If you don't know who he is, you need to know who he is, undercover billionaire. But Glenn Stearns, he had like the kind of the roughest life growing up, and he had a kid when he was like 16. I don't even think he finished high school. And then randomly he moved to California, learned from some very wealthy people, educated people, and learned real estate and got into that business. And then now he's a billionaire running his own company. And he stars in that show, Undercover Billionaire, which is really cool. I recommend people watch it. It's basically a show where he starts off in the middle of some random city, and it's not even a big city either. And he starts off with I think $100 cash, a car slash truck, a cell phone, but with no contacts in it. And yes, and in 90 days, I believe, so it's basically 3 months, he has to create $1 million business from just those resources. So he actually gets pretty close. He didn't quite get there, but he was dang near close to $1 million. So that's a great lesson 101 in entrepreneurship if you want to look into it. But generally speaking, and I'll go into, I'm a stats guy, so I'll go into some stats. Studies show and stats show that it's true. Education and income are correlated in education and wealth levels. So the higher the education you have, generally speaking, statistically, the higher level of wealth you will have. So let's go ahead and hop into some studies. So I found a couple. Let's go ahead and hop into this one. This is straight from the Social Security site, so from the US government. And right here, substantial differences in lifetime earnings. So this one's specifically income. By educational attainment, men with bachelor degrees earn approximately $900,000 more in median lifetime earnings than high school graduates. Women, on the other hand, make $630,000 more than high school graduates. Men with graduate degrees earn 1.5 million more, and women with graduate degrees earn 1.1 million more. And it goes into some stats showing, based off your education level, what your lifetime earnings can be, and it compares multiple different ones. Now, there's also this one from I love Fred. If you're not familiar with Fred, I don't know if you can call yourself a finance person or an economics person, just because that's where all most economic figures come from, very reliable ones. So this is Education, Income, and Wealth. This was written in 2017, but still very relevant today. Man, back when Janet Yellen was chair of the Fed. So this one is income inequality. All right, that's not what we're focusing on. So they compare a lot of stuff, but right here, family financial outcomes based on education. You can clearly see if you have a 2 to 4 year degree or advanced degree, your wealth level, your income level is significantly higher than someone who even just has a high school diploma, because I'd say that's average people. And unemployment, this graph was actually really interesting as well, just because unemployment declines as education increases. So it's crazy. So the purple line is less than a high school diploma, 25 years and older. Blue is the normal unemployment rate, I believe, and then red is the bachelor degrees are higher, 25 years or older. If you look at it, during COVID, a lot of people got laid off. So around 8.4% of people who had a bachelor degree or higher did not have a job. They're unemployed. Compared to sorry, I'm trying to get this line. The average was 14.7%. So right there, that almost doubled your odds of being unemployed if you didn't have at least a bachelor's degree. And then even higher, so not near double, but a quarter, 25% more likely to if you have less than a high school degree. So 21, a fourth of people who had a high school degree or less didn't have a job during COVID or after COVID, which is crazy. Versus less than 1 in 10, so like 1 in 9 people, or sorry, 1 in 11 people, bachelor's degree or higher. So, just saying. Education and wealth. All right, that's like recommendations, and then this is the last one. So stay with me. What does it mean? Oh, this one's a lifetime loan. All right, so actually we're done with that. I was looking at some other stuff. So top of a very main one. All right, so as you can see, education level does matter when it comes to lifelong earnings from an aggregate perspective, and it's important to see that. Now, obviously, there are outliers and there are exceptions to the rule. I generally don't like to follow the exceptions because they're exceptions and outliers for a reason, aka the Glenn Stearns of the world, who didn't graduate high school, didn't go to college, and is a billionaire now. And the several multimillionaires and billionaires you see on Instagram and social media are the same exact thing. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't strive for that, but odds are you're probably not going to beat them. Now, you might not be a multimillionaire, but you can definitely be pretty well off by not having a high level education, and it shouldn't dictate kind of how you live, like how happy your life is. But just speaking from odds perspectives, statistically speaking, you having a bachelor's degree definitely increases your chances of making more money. Now, this is the caveat I will say is don't get a bachelor's degree just to get a bachelor's degree. Get a bachelor's degree because you are going to do something and that's going to propel your career in a certain field from what you studied. That it can turn into a career or possibly a career or a chance at a career if you want to do that. And I think it's a great way to start off for anyone. So anyone in their 18 or in their 20s, like I would suggest figuring out first kind of what you want to do. Now, I am definitely a big proponent of economics and finance, and because all those are very practical things you can use in everyday life. Biology, like cool. I know the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. That's literally the only thing I really remember from biology. But that stuff's cool and dandy, but unless you're getting a master's degree or a PhD, then there's not really much you can do with that. Whereas finance and economics or accounting on the other side, it's very practical life, and a lot of people just honestly end up in some sort of business anyway, and even having some sort of business skills, whether it be marketing or finance, or I mean, HR is one thing. I wouldn't necessarily recommend HR, but people kill it in HR too. Information systems, coding, like all those things, those are what I would recommend going to higher education, institutional education for. And then on the side, I kind of wish I started earlier doing stuff on the side, but you're a kid, kids are kids growing up. Like, I didn't have my life sorted out when I was 18. Most people don't. But that's why if I had content like this growing up, it would be a life changer. That's why I'm making it. But at least if you can start focusing on maybe some stuff that you would want to do if you were to be an entrepreneur or start your own business per se and start building on those ideas and gaining some of those skills while along the way getting an education in a field that is not only going to get you a solid career or put you on a solid career path, but you can make pretty good money from, and you can use those skills that you're learning in college and apply it to your own personal businesses later on in life, then I think you're set. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't do that unless you have a really good idea, you blow up really early, and you're in this predicament of, man, I'm making 200 grand a year doing my side thing, so why should I keep going to school? If you're at that case, or you're making several $100,000 a year, then obviously, yeah, I'd probably reconsider going to school too. But that is the exception. That is not the general rule. So those are my thoughts. That's talking about education and income correlation. Higher education does lead statistically to higher wealth levels and higher earning levels. Now, this is a really good point I learned from my guy, Rich Cooper. I don't know if he coined the term or not because I looked this up and there were lots of YouTube videos and lots of different things that popped up about it from other people, not just him. But I'll just say he coined it for the sake that I heard it first from him, was don't let school get in the way of your education. Now, I love this saying just because whenever anyone thinks of education or learning, they automatically think of, oh, you want to get more education, you gotta go to school, or you gotta go to college, or you gotta get a grad degree. Excuse me. You gotta get a PhD. You gotta do this. You gotta do that. You gotta pay some institution to take classes. You take tests, and then you gain knowledge and you gain an education. That's not always the case because there's many other methods and ways you can learn stuff, not exclusively through getting some piece of paper that says you know this stuff. Now, certifications are a little bit different than degrees, but degrees and institutional education is not the only source of learning and education. And he has this great example of like, think about a 4 year degree. And I do agree with him for sure. Typical person spends, let's just say, what I spent for my education obviously was 6 years just because I had to kind of figure out what I was doing. Switch from geology, switch to finance. So that extended it by a couple years. So I graduated with my undergrad in 6 years. And total in tuition, I'm just counting tuition and kind of books and stuff, not living expenses, because you're going to have those regardless of whether you're in school or you're working. But I spent around like $40,000 on my entire college education. So if you were to put that $40,000 into courses or conferences or other methods in order to learn different other skills as well, like you can get a really good education as well. So I definitely agree with that. So remember, don't let school get in the way of your education. Institutional education is not the end all be all when it comes to education. Now, there's certain things that require certifications and certain classes that you do need to take in order to become what you want to become. But for the most part, you actually learn a lot through other methods as well. You just got to put the time and the effort and the put your money where your mouth is. That's what you gotta do. All right, sources learning. So this naturally leads to the different sources of learning. Obviously, I mentioned one, institutional education, school. You go to school, you go to high school, you go to college, you go to trade school, whatever, in order to learn and learn something, learn a skill, whatever. Now, YouTube. I love YouTube. I don't know anyone who doesn't love YouTube. Like, for most of you dudes out there, if you're not watching YouTube to learn stuff or to listen to people where you can learn stuff from them, what are you doing? Like, the classic example is me and my friend. He always bugs me about like telling me to get YouTube Premium. I probably eventually will at some point, but I just haven't been able to justify it. I think it's like what, like I don't even know how much it is, like 20 bucks a month or something like that. But basically, it's just no ads, which ads don't bother me that much, but I guess for him it makes a difference. But we always there's always the memes too where you can't all dudes can't go eating a meal without like watching YouTube at the same time, or whenever they're just sitting down doing nothing or just relaxing, not actively doing something, they're probably on YouTube. That's me, and that's him too. We always compare our YouTube watch times on our phones because your phones like track how much time you're using on your apps, and I think his was roughly like 4 hours a day, or maybe five. I don't know, five actually is kind of stretching it. Maybe four, and then mine was like three. Well, obviously, there's definitely some days where I like binge watch it, and especially I think this was either before or maybe it's during the time when I literally put on a YouTube podcast while I was working, and I would just put in my earphones because a lot of the work I did was just individual, and I would do that, and even I still do that now whenever I'm not kind of around people, and I, excuse me, and I'm not doing something that I have to focus like extremely hard on. And my YouTube time jumped up a lot, so I'd probably say it was like 2 to 3 hours. Now, obviously, I watch a lot of YouTube on my computer now, so it's gonna. I'm actually really curious. I'm gonna look it up. It's under general app usage. Where is it? Accessibility. I don't know. It's gonna really bother me because I'm really curious on how much I watch. I want to say it's in general. Not about. Gosh, this is gonna really bother me now that I don't know how much YouTube I've been watching. Eventually, I'll find it. If anyone wants to let me know, you can just let me know in the comment section. But yeah, I watch a lot of YouTube, so YouTube is definitely a go-to when it comes to education because it's free. Like you can't beat it. Free. People like me, people like uh, Top G, people like Justin Waller, people like Myron and Fresh, people like Ryan Pineda, people like Alex Hormozy, people like Michael Sartain, people like Hafiz, Baoku. Like, these people are just giving you free knowledge, free wisdom. Anything on the internet, it's like anything you can learn, anything you pay for is basically on the internet. Especially with AI nowadays, it's there. You just got to find it and you got to spend the time. But that doesn't always mean free is the best. Now, a lot of people will pay, I have paid, to get a compilation of stuff in a course or a conference or whatever. That way, it's all the meat and the potatoes where you don't have to just sift through all this crap in order to get the good stuff. Because it takes time. All right, so YouTube podcasts are another one. It's like very similar to YouTube. I basically listen to all my podcasts through YouTube just because most people put it on YouTube. But there's tons of podcasts that are really great. There's even one for like options trading that I listened to for a long time. I haven't been super active in the market lately, so I haven't been listening to that one as much. But Alpha, not Alpha Academy, that's the WWE group, but it's Alpha Options Trading or something like that. It's really good. I'd recommend listening to it if you want to learn more about options. Uh, who else? Like Joe Rogan's really good. Brad Lee, Alex Hormozy, like all the typical ones. And oh, I really like the podcast how I built this, or how they built this. It's basically a podcast about people who have built multi-million and multi-billion dollar companies and how they did it. Like some of the ones I've listened to are like Polaroid or Cane's, like the chicken company, like the chicken restaurant. Like I love Cane's. Well, another one, In and Out. Another one was there's a couple different tech companies. Like I don't think it was Oracle. I can't remember which ones, but I've listened to a bunch of them and they're really interesting because you talked with just Airbnb was another one. Facebook. Talk with these CEOs and these owners of how they built their businesses, and a lot of times they had no idea what they were doing. Most of the time, they had no idea what they were doing at first, but they just kind of found something that was niche and there's a market for it, and they could grow like crazy, and they focus on growth. So I'd recommend that podcast. And there's a number of different podcasts as well, PBD podcasts, but podcasts are a great one. Courses, I love courses. Now, obviously courses you pay for usually, but courses are great where you can get an aggregation of a lot of information all bundled up to basically what you want. That way you don't have to spend time searching through the internet, watching a million YouTube videos to kind of find the right one that you're looking for, and you can buy all that pre-packaged in a course and you can watch it. And a lot of times you have lifetime access to the course that you can watch it over and over and over again. Or you can even have subscriptions as well. Like, I'll be honest with y'all, I am a member of the Real World, so Andrew Tate's online business, and there's a lot of professors on there, the guys that are running these different channels, and they know what they're doing. I've definitely made money. Obviously, I I'm working like a normal job and stuff, and I'm doing some of that on the side, but it's mostly like content creation and crypto investing, stock market investing. But I've definitely made money from it. So it works. So courses are a really good method and source of learning. Conferences. I've been to multiple conferences as well. I'd love to get to more conferences as time allows, but conferences is a great way to meet people, learn new players in the space that you're in. Been to a couple crypto conferences, uh, financial conferences. I'd love to go to a content conference one day. I think that'd be pretty sick to meet other creators once I'm a little bit bigger. But conferences are great. And then events, kind of along the same lines, great to network. Um, Mentorship and apprenticeship. Now, this one is one that gets overlooked a lot just because it seems kind of like old school, and we live in the digital age where it's like, well, I can just learn everything from the comfort of my house on my computer wherever I want. But there's value to having a mentor and working under that mentor, or being an apprentice to someone in what they do, basically like working with them day in day out and learning the tricks of the trade or whatever they're doing. For example, someone who's in real estate, you kind of work under them either for free or for like not that much money, and you're mainly there to learn, and then you work with them for a while, you learn everything that they do, and then you can kind of go and do it all on yourself, or even maybe possibly take over their part or a portion of their business. So that's very underrated that not a lot of people do. And honestly, that'd be something once I get more experience, I would love to have mentor, or I would love to be a mentor to people under me and then help them build their own thing. And then eventually they go off and do their own thing just because they gain all the knowledge and stuff from that. I think that's very beneficial. And I think it's healthy and natural as well. A lot of people are like, well, I don't want all these people working for me. These are a lot. This is actually why I really appreciate Bedros Keuilian. Granted, he says it, and I believe him. Can't confirm 100% if it's true or not, but I take his word for it. But he talks about he'll sometimes even hire people like almost as like interns or whatever, or hire them to do a job so they can learn everything that he's doing and how he structures his businesses and stuff, and then they can go off and do it for their own businesses. I think that's really cool, and I'd love to do something like that as well. A lot of people are kind of scared to do that just because, like, oh, if I and obviously you have the proper legalities in place where it's like they don't just steal your ideas. But we also live in a world where that happens. It's some copycat world. The famous R&D that Rich Cooper uses all the time. It's not research and development. It's rip off and duplicate. That's what it means. So mentorship and apprenticeship very underrated. That no one talks about anymore. And then lastly, just socializing, just being a relatively social person. Now, obviously, people are busy, like I'm busy. So, like, I'm either working or at the gym or creating content for you guys or balancing, like managing my portfolio. But when I do have time, when I'm not just chilling or whatever, I try to make an effort to go out to stuff. I go out, excuse me, participate in my church, my institute. Uh, we have networking events for work or whatever. If there's a concert a couple people are going to that they want me to come, like I'll go do that. And just being social because you never know who you're going to meet and what connections you're going to make as well. So those are several different sources of learning, and there are a million different other ones as well. But those were several that I have found helpful in my own life. Now, it's very important that you develop this one skill, this one attribute in yourself. And I'm not talking about discipline, I'm not talking about mentality, I'm talking about like curiosity. Like how people need to develop the trait of curiosity more. And this is something I really learned, and I read Michael Dell's book. It's called Play Nice But Win, and it's a very good book. It's about how Dell, the computer company, right, and them going through their merger and acquisition of EMC, so storage and server business, and it was like it's the biggest. I believe it's still the biggest tech merger and acquisition ever in history. So it goes about everything that had to do with that, and it was very interesting. And one of the last things he had in his book is the emphasis on building a culture and building the skill and attribute of being curious, just because that's exactly how he built his company. Is he's just genuinely a curious person, and he kept learning, and he capitalized off of learning gaps in the market and filling those gaps, and then he constantly learns. That's why he's still this CEO now. Very few founders and founders of Fortune 500 companies are still the CEO, and he's one of them, if not one of the few, if not the only one. I'm sure there's probably others, Fortune 500, but he's like Fortune 20 or Fortune 50, which is a big deal. So I think that's a really important skill that all of us have to develop and have to build up, is that level of curiosity in ourselves, just because that's generally how a business idea comes about, or how you network with someone, or how you build a relationship with someone. Is you're curious about something that they do. You might, and it may not be something that you really have a bit huge interest in per se, but it's something that you'd be like, oh, okay, that's really interesting. I didn't know about that. Tell me more. And it allows people to give you more information, and you never know. It could be a really good idea, or it could be a really good thing that you could dive into yourself. So I think of when I'm talking to people and someone's like, I'm really, for example, one thing, I actually used to not be a huge car dude, and I'm still not, I'd say, to the level of being like a very knowledgeable car guy, like knowing the ins and outs of a car and an engine and stuff, like far from that. But as far as interest and like the different types of cars and different models and the different packages and the different mods that you can put on stuff, I've learned a lot. And at first, I was not really a car guy at all. I'd even tell people, like, honestly, I'm not really a car guy. Like, it'd be cool to have like a Mustang, just because that was one of the first cars, and it's probably my favorite muscle car. But other than that, like, I didn't really know much about cars. But I met a couple people that were really into cars and kind of knew more. And I kind of like asked questions about them, and they gave me the answers. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And the different information I was getting from different sources. people and experiences, friends, family, YouTube, social media, or whatever, podcasts. Like I learned a lot, and I was like, huh, this is actually really interesting, and I've kind of gotten into myself and allowed me to purchase my new car that's coming in soon, end of the month. But that's an example of being curious, staying curious, and developing that curiosity. So whenever there's something that's mentioned or brought up that you don't really know much about, like ask about it, be curious about it, because that's how you grow and that's how you learn and you increase your knowledge and your ability to do stuff. Because you ask questions. That's the biggest thing. Is ask questions. If you ever want to expedite your the progression of your career or increase your network or whatever, ask quality good questions, because you're not going to learn anything if you don't ask any questions. So remember that. All right, close to wrapping up here. Yeah, my all this talking is probably not great for me right now. So wrapping up with the couple last points. This applies to not just career and business skills, this whole learning concept and education, but you can apply it to the normal stuff in your life, the fun stuff in your life too. I'm not saying like business and stuff isn't fun. I love making money and increasing my net worth and helping other people out. But at the end of the day, no one really likes someone who spends all their time doing like one thing, or like, for example, no one really likes the kid who all he does is play video games, or specifically one video game. He's like, I'm a big League of Legends guy. I'm just picking on League of Legends people right now. I played it like twice and I sucked and I got destroyed. I've never played it again. But like, if one guy's just like the best, the world's best League of Legends player, but he has like no other interests and he doesn't do anything else, he just plays League of Legends all day, every day, then unless you're like a League of Legends person, which most people honestly aren't, then it's like you don't really seem like he's not that interesting to many people. Versus someone who's like, all right, he is really good at like, I'm really good at playing basketball or whatever. Say I'm a professional athlete, I played in the NBA, and I'm also really good at like cooking, like grilling meat and doing barbecues and stuff like that. And so that's cool. And you also like you like to play pickleball every once in a while. You're into cars too, but you're not like necessarily experts, but you learn more about that stuff and you increase the breadth of the knowledge that you have, and you make your life more interesting. People are going to naturally gravitate towards that type of person because they have a lot of different skills that they can relate to. Granted, they are really good at one or two really good two specific things, but they have a plethora of other experiences and skills that they're good enough at that they can apply that and share that with other people, rather than no one. Like I said, no one likes the guy who's just good at and focuses their time only on one thing. Obviously, there's an extent to that. In order to be world class at something, you need to spend majority, if not all, your time on a few things, but that's not forever. That's typically for a season, and then you have some other time to do other stuff, but you mainly focus majority of your time on that. So yeah, no one likes a person who's boring, essentially. And this can apply to hobbies, like I mentioned, cooking, grilling, playing different sports, cars, jewelry, drinks, like whatever. You can apply it in anything, leisure activities. And like I said, it increases the level of captivation in your life. Like makes you more interesting and a well-rounded person. Now obviously, this is going to go to my last point. That being said, you should become world class in one or two things in your life. And that means spending majority of your time on these one or two things. So whether it be like stock market and like cooking meat or something, or fitness and one other thing, or even just fitness or whatever. Become world class at something. So I guess for my spiel, it's like I want to become world class at more so like personal finance and portfolio management. I actually love doing that, and cash management specifically. So that's why I want to kind of pursue a role in treasury, because it's all about cash management. So I want to become world class, at least at this point in my life. I think that's what I want to do. It could change for sure, But definitely that, and then I would probably also say fitness as well. So like money and like specifically finance in that realm, portfolio management, cash management, and fitness, strength training, muscle building. That's those are kind of the two things I love. And then obviously I'm doing this like content creation on the side. I'm also I like to I like to put together playlists and stuff. I'm a really big music guy. Um, I don't know. Today I had the thought. I'm like, honestly, if I like make it big and whatever, and I like retire or something, and I'm still like probably making content and stuff. But if I had like just more time on my hand, I would love to get into like producing music and like producing mixes and mashups, like big booty mix and stuff like that. I think that'd be sick. That'd be like so fun. Just more of my creative side. But spend majority of your time on these one or two things that you're going to become world class in, and then you can spend the rest of your time, any free time you have, on breadth. So one or two things, focus on depth, become world class. Rest of the time, free time, breadth, new interesting things, experiences. Like I wanted to dive a little bit into boxing or Muay Thai. Want to get into cars. I got my motorcycle license, so ride a little bit of motorcycles. By no means am I going to become experts per se and know the ins and outs of a motorcycle, be able to fix everything. But I'll be able to know the different types of cars, especially JDM. I'm very interested in JDM just because it's in my blood, Japanese domestic market. So knowing the, the Supras, the GTRs, the NSXs, all those kind of cars are very exciting. WRXs, they're very exciting to me, and it's kind of like the niche I'm pulling in. But obviously, knowing some stuff about trucks and stuff, and any other fast vehicles and big, powerful machinery, I think that's cool. But am I going to become world class expert on that? Probably not. But these one or two things, finance and fitness, I believe I could definitely be putting. You got to put in the time. That's what you got to do. So that's pretty much it for tonight. My voice is getting spent. Hopefully, I should have. I shouldn't lose my voice, but hopefully, I'm feeling a little bit better. I'm a little under the weather, but to recap, kind of what I've been talking about, why you need to be a lifelong learner. What role does education play in life? How, and it's interesting that education is actually correlated positively with income and wealth. So, higher educated you are, the more money you're going to make, the more wealth you're going to have, statistically speaking. But that being said, don't let school get in the way of your education. Coined by, I will say, Richard Cooper. And then, because of that, there are many different sources of learning that you can do, not just institutional learning, various other forms of education. But you got to really develop the skill and the attribute of being curious. That's what breeds education and learning and increasing your skills is that curiosity. Ask questions. And all of this talk about learning and education that can also be applied to not just career and business skills, but leisurely activities, hobbies, stuff that's fun and not as serious. And then lastly, while you do want to focus on the breadth of your skills and learning, become try to become world class in one or two specific things. Spend majority of your time developing those skills, and then spend the rest of your time, any free time you have, on breadth, new experiences, new things, stuff that's going to make you interesting and help you connect with people on a different level. Try that and see how it works for you. I'm trying that, working pretty well for me so far, so I'm going to continue doing it. But as with everything, trying to help you guys get stronger, smarter, healthier, and wealthier. So go ahead, follow for more tips, follow for more lives. And as always, stay pumped. All right. Sorry, I did that whole thing without talking about the future live. So next live, I came up with a couple new ideas. We will see. I will release kind of the topic. I'm trying to do a little bit more beforehand, but work and stuff kind of gets crazy. So, and I try to go to bed at a decent time and not go to bed at midnight and have to wake up at 5 a.m. the next day. I will spend more time this weekend. I have kind of stuff brainstormed, but none of those topics kind of pop out to me right now for next Tuesday. So we'll see what other. Hopefully, I can come up with a list of like 20 to 30 different things. But that being said, I already kind of said the outro stuff, but let's cue that outro.